Hi, and welcome to the Outdoor Adventure Hour. So today I drove up here to Annealeez for brass annealing. We have a whole series coming up on Lupo Outdoors where we're testing multiple different annealers. And this happens to be within an hour's drive of me, so we're actually doing this here at the manufacturer's plant. We'll show you a little bit more about it here. But why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your business?
Hi, my name's Jeff Buck. I own Annealeez. We started it 10 years ago or so. It was in the garage of my house. It had a few employees helping me do it. I started off doing it all by myself. And within, I don't know, a month, I knew that I couldn't produce enough of them. So we went that way, hired employees, trained them, and we kept in the garage for about a year, something like that. And then I rented a shop. And we did that for another year, and then we bought this place and built this shop. And we've been going strong ever since here. At the start of it, I would have never guessed anybody would be willing to spend $275 on a machine. It took off. And we have consistently tried to be customer-centric. We've tried to innovate all the ideas that people email me back and contact me with. And so we've had 4 generations of machines. Each generation has probably had at least a dozen different changes, the small unadvertised changes as we've grown. But our goal here is to present a product to our customers or the shooting world that they can buy. It's effective, it's cost effective, it's not outrageously expensive, and it just works. It's simple and it works. And that's what we've done, and try to make it more and more and more user-friendly. Probably at least 75% of the changes that have come about to the machine have all been changes that customers, say, hey, I did this to my machine. We like this. See if you can implement it in your product. And if it's something that I can do cost effective, the main thing is I always wanted to keep the price point at $275, which included shipping. The one thing I never expected is shipping them overseas. About 20% of my business is shipping them all over the world. The only continent we haven't shipped to is Antarctica.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Antarctica.
Yeah.
Sorry, bad puns.
But it's really been a great ride. What has surprised me the most about being in business in the shooting world is how awesome the customers are. Mm-hmm. They have the same goal. They want to buy a machine that just works, that they don't have to mess with. They know when they go out to use it that all they got to do is plug it in, turn it on, load it up, and it's good to go.
See, that's great.
Yeah, and it's simple to use. It's not complicated, or if it does have problems, it's not hard to fix. I'm always super on the spot with emails or complaints. Hey, we'll get you a part out, or if that doesn't work, well, here's a replacement machine.
When I sent you an email about the annealing series I'm doing, and how I'm doing the testing, and I'm testing multiple sequence, we'll talk about that in a little while. You responded the next day. I had an email from you immediately. You're very responsive on email, and I appreciated that. That shows good customer care.
Well, I believe that's what makes or breaks a small business, period, is customer service. So I really focus on it. One thing, I used to work for Amazon years and years ago when they were first starting up. It was even before they were public. And Jeff Bezos used to preach to us all the time that we're going to have a customer-centric website. And that really stuck in my brain, and it's like, this is really going to turn into something. And 5 years later, I left because the company was huge and it wasn't as much fun as it was when it started. But look at what it is today.
Oh yeah.
And not that I have any aspirations that will ever be like that. I'm happy with the amount of volume that we ship, and I couldn't give the kind of customer service I do today if we had 4 million SKUs to ship out and stuff like that. I like specializing in this. I've had a couple of other machines and stuff that I really wanted to do, but we've just never been able to make enough of these to introduce another machine into the mix.
Well, earlier you were telling me that you want to go to SHOT Show. You've been invited to SHOT Show, but you never make it because you have to keep up with your orders and and keep everything running.
Yeah,
you can't make them fast enough because they're selling so quickly.
Well, I mean, far be it from the little rich boy to whine about having a silver spoon. And of course, I've never been a rich boy with a silver spoon, but I can't complain about customers wanting my product.
Yeah.
That's an awesome problem to have.
Well, and it is kind of a key point. It's like when I went to SHOT Show this year, I left SHOT Show with probably 300-400 business cards from people I talked to. I was there from open to close every single day, and I met fantastic vendors. Great, developed some great communications and developed some good relationships. And I didn't see everything that I needed to see. I mean, it was crazy. If you've never been to SHOT Show, it is so big. They calculated that if you walk up every single aisle that's at SHOT Show through all the different floors, it equals to about 17 miles of walking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did it.
And I'm not a fan of big crowds like that.
No.
And then I'll never forget the first gun show that I went to was when we first started out. And a guy named Kevin Beebe bought my machine. And he told me after he bought it that he liked to make videos and he would review it. And I'm like, oh great. I really didn't know much about how all that worked at that time, and Kevin's since passed, but he became a really good friend.
Nice.
And he was known on YouTube as Hornady Reloader. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he really, really liked Hornady equipment. I'd been to his place several times. He had a reloading bench that would make anybody drool. He really did, and he did great videos. So anyway, he bought the machine, and I asked him, I'm like, well, what drew you to come over here? And he laughed, and he says, you won't believe what I'm going to tell you. And I'm like, no, I will. He says, well, I saw your banner up above your table, and he says, I was clear across on the other side of the room, and he's like, I saw it, and I thought, Annealeez? What in the hell are they doing here? He says, so I had to come over and see.
This is not what I expected.
Yeah, and I just laughed. I'm like, yeah, I know, we get a lot of that. It wasn't intentional, but it's helped us sell the brand. People remember it.
Oh yeah.
And,
yeah, without question.
And it's funny for me. I just think it's funny. I don't get butt hurt over it.
No pun intended,
Yes.
right?
But I get a kick out of it, And it's the name's done us well, and Kevin really went out of his way to make some really good videos. And this is when we very very first started, I hadn't been in business a couple of months. And so it really helped the brand take off. And then as we started developing different things for that machine, we ran it by him, you know, and he was really, really super good to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I miss him.
When did you start doing this?
2014.
2014.
10 years ago.
10 years ago, and you're now on, the newest one is Gen 4, right?
Yes, yeah, we've had 4 major...
That's this one.
Yep, right. Yep. That's, we've had 4 major generational changes, either to the design of the entire machine. This was mostly an aluminum wheel upgrade. The frame's kind of the same. We put a bend in it here. It makes it look different than the people that have copied it.
Yeah.
And that's a compliment to me. I really, really don't get upset about competition copying the machine. I have a machine up there that we do research and development on. I'll buy my competition's machines, bring them here, tear them down, see what's in them, what makes them work. And there's one up there, and I won't name it, but we set it right beside one of my machines, and it looked just like it. Same size, same everything, and same position, you know, wheels, controller, all that stuff. And I'm like, I wonder where they got all that at.
I wonder.
But it's flattery. To me, it's the awesome, most awesome flattery there is.
Now, these used to be nylon wheels, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when we first started this, I used every kind of product, every kind of material that we could think of. And from wood to aluminum to stainless to nylon, Delrin, all kinds of different things, trying to figure out what's going to withstand the heat but still give us an indicator of where we're at during the annealing process. And nylon, it's a 6/6 nylon, is what I settled on. Ultra expensive, $20 a linear foot.
Goodness.
Of nylon. And aluminum's, you know, half that. But the nylon would absorb heat, and it wouldn't pass it on like a heat sink like aluminum does. So that enabled us some manufacturing and production type of qualities that we could make all the innards that worked simpler than like what this is. So, and that was always in my mind's eye, keep it simple, stupid. It's what you learn in the service.
Yep, the KISS system.
Yep. If you keep it simple, it will last. People will use it, and they'll like it. And so that was what we went with. And I always, in fact, I still prefer the nylon to this.
Now, do you still sell the nylon wheels?
No, I quit doing it. Let's see what we've got. Here's a Gen 3 machine.
With the nylon wheels?
Yes. Just about the same, but you notice there's no bend like this has got. And we put that in there for a reason. It wasn't just to put our logo on it.
Yeah. So why does this have a thing? Oh, is that grabbing the shell when it comes around and then drops it?
So you fill the hopper up with cases, and it'll pick one up at a time, drop it down here, and then as this rolls around, it will pick up the case when it's done annealing and drop it down through this ramp and into a tray.
So, and this one doesn't have that. So right. What's the difference in how this works compared to that one? Well, I noticed that this doesn't have a drop here, so this is just like a spring-loaded?
Yep.
Ah, so when it comes through and drops another shell, it pushes the other shell out.
Well, it doesn't push it out. There's a solenoid behind this.
Oh, I see. It opens. I see.
There's a switch behind this wheel that gets depressed.
There is. It's right there.
Yeah, and that's what opens the ramp and lets the case escape. I still think this is my preference. When I anneal, and I reload a lot, I've used this one just because I needed to test it. I made this 6 months ago. That's the original demo. This is the original demo of that one.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I've got several of them over there setting, all except the original wooden machine that I made. Made of plywood and then covered it with metal. Mm-hmm. And then once I realized, some of my buddies were like, make me one, I'll pay you for it. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have brake, so I couldn't bend metal. So I went and bought a little brake and was cutting everything out by hand and, all that powder coating it. Not snips, but hand shears and stuff like that. And this is what it has evolved into now. We have to use a laser cutter. There's no way we could make those out of stainless by hand.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
So why don't you, earlier before we went on to camera, you were telling me the reason why you went from this to this with the metal ones. You were telling me a story.
Yeah. We decided, or I decided that I needed to become more aware of what my competition was doing, because I truly wasn't worried about anybody giving me competition in the market, because I think competition's good. It's good for the consumer, and nobody wants a monopoly, and I certainly didn't want that. So anyway, I started looking around online, and I have a Facebook page, of course, for the machine, and I'm a member of a lot of the different shooting groups and reloading groups on Facebook, and I saw several other machines up there, and I'm like, well, let me look at these. These look interesting. There's always really good machines out there. I wouldn't say that any one machine's better than another. Of course, I prefer mine.
Of course.
But they're really good machines. And when you do your review, you'll find that. It's really admirable that there's enough ingenuity in America that people can do this. It's not like that in a lot of other countries. And that makes me really proud.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is 100% built here in the U.S.
It is.
We're in the shop. I mean, and later on, I'll actually do some filming in the shop and show you this. He's got a crew that comes in, and these are all handmade right here. So that's kind of neat, that individual attention. So it's not shot out to China for mass production,
Well, and that was what I realized with my competition. It was that's what they were doing. And it really upset me at first. And then it dawned on me, well, customers want what they want. And if they didn't like my nylon wheels because they couldn't heat the brass up hot enough in it, then I needed to provide them a solution.
Right.
Just reading in the Facebook groups and trying to sort out who's who in the zoo, what's going on, and everything, I went ahead and thought, you know what, I just need to design a machine. I always said I wouldn't go to aluminum wheels. They require a whole different type of motor, a whole different type of exit system, and they enable you to over-anneal your brass. Mm-hmm. And I've preached about it for 10 years. I've got a metallurgy background. But if it's going to fall on deaf ears and they want what they want, then I'm going to make it for them. And it's really that simple. This has been received well. We released it, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
oh, nice.
Something like that, maybe a month now, I don't know. And we've shipped out several hundred of them. And of course, the first ones you ship out, you've got this problem, that problem, this bug. And so the caveat is, and I tell the customers that buy them, if you've got any problem, please let me know. A lot of times I won't send parts out for them. I want to send them a new machine and get the other machine back.
So you can figure out what the bug was.
Yeah, so I can dissect it and say, okay, hey, we need to move this hole over a 1/16 of an inch or something.
What is that hole for?
That hole is for people that they're absolutely insistent on mounting a torch on the machine. The way I like to do it is like this. Of course, there's no room there, but
Oh yeah, you can make it.
that way you can actually set this torch up.
So it'd be like right here.
It'd be right, it'd be right here, actually.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If I get a lot of people that are worried, and I don't understand why they worry about it, but they're really worried that they're going to bump it when they're doing it, and then that, you know, of course, it may fall down and light their shop on fire or whatever. So,
not what you want.
no. But this, I think, is just absolutely. And when you test it, I hope you give this a try.
Yeah, I want to try both.
Because this makes the system so much easier. And what I found is I could take this bottle when it's sitting over here and I'm annealing and there's a jam or there's something didn't work exactly how it's supposed to, is I can take it and I can just grab it and set it up. And it's out of the way, I'm not burning my fingers, and I can stop everything. And then whenever it's done, it's easy enough just to sit back down, move it to just where I want it, and go. And I got this idea from one of my customers.
Oh, really?
And I was just, in fact, he made a couple of videos for me as well. So I was really tickled when I saw that. I thought, wow, what an idea. And believe it or not, we have to have these little bottle clamps made because we can't buy enough of them to ship out with the machine. So you can't go to the auto parts store and say, I want 3,000.
Yeah.
So we have to have them made, and they're outrageously expensive.
Wow.
And I have them made in America. I could have had them made in China for
saved a third, you know, or 3/4 of the cost by going to China, right?
Right. So I have them made in Toledo, Ohio, and you know, as long as I buy bulk of them, they're reasonable enough that I don't have to raise the price of the machine. It's always been paramount is to be able to sell this for a decent price, include shipping in the price. There's no sales tax unless you live in Florida and we ship a machine to you in Florida. Then I think it's $20 or something like that for sales tax. And so a lot of the guys, they buy these things off Amazon, they buy them from Shields online, and they pay $20, $30 more for them because they're paying state sales tax. And I'm like, well, you know, it's your preference. Do what you want. It's your money.
Yeah.
But I'm always got my mind wrapped around cost-effective change and shipping and blah 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 blah. Trying to make you know, the best we can with what we have.
So I also noticed that your control board here is different from the control board up here. What was the big difference?
The big difference, it's made by the same manufacturer, of course, in China. You cannot get electronic components like that anywhere else.
Not at the price you can get in China.
Yeah, now I could have these made here, you know, but it would be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 100% more money.
Oh my goodness.
And then once again, we're back up to raising the price of the machine. But the big difference is that you can just press this to turn it on, and press it to turn it off, and then just turn it to adjust your speed. This is a bunch of buttons. The big one that caused so much grief when we released it was the one that says menu. Everybody just had to press it, play with the settings in it, and of course we sent directions out with it and all that, but it was hard for them to get it back to what it was supposed to be. So this seemed more user-friendly, more simple.
Oh, the simplicity of on, off, adjust.
Yeah.
How do you beat that?
As far as I know, you can't.
You can't. So let's talk a little bit about reloading. So I have a whole series coming out. I have a multitude of annealers being sent to me. And I have very low-end cost annealers. I have mid-grade, cost annealers, and then I have high-end annealers coming out. And what we're going to do at Lupo Outdoors is we're going to review each annealer as they come in. I already have several. And we're going to talk about what we like, what we don't like, what works, and so forth. And the way we're going to do this is we are going to reload. We're going to do this in 300 blackout, and we're going to reload the exact same way. So we're going to start with a 5-shot control group. So it's going to be shoot, clean brass, reload, and so forth without annealing, and see how many times we can shoot those 5 pieces of brass before they fail. And then we're going to do the same with each annealer as they come in, and we're going to see how many shots we get out of the brass with each annealer. And then once we've gone through the whole review, right now we're up to 5 annealers, and I have a couple of more people who might be sending me some more equipment. We're going to do the bake-off, and we're going to take all the data we got from each of them, and we're going to talk about, how easy was it to set up, when you talk about simplicity, do you need a PhD, or is it, self-explanatory? Because I've looked at some annealers, and they're very, very complex. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this series is when you're reloading brass, annealing gets you a lot more loads out of that brass than it does from just shooting, reload, shooting, and reload. Should you anneal like 223s and 9mm brass? It's so cheap, maybe not right now, but I have a 338 Lupo, and some of the brass that I use is $5 per shell. $5.
Yeah.
And then, if I want to reload 100, that's $500. I want as many reloads off that brass as I could possibly get. So when you start talking about more expensive brass, machines like this are a godsend. This would, if I'm doing reloads on Lupo, 338 Lupo, this will pay for itself in no time whatsoever. But it also gives you far more control of your shots. We were talking before we turned on the camera, and by proper annealing the brass, when you pull the trigger, the brass expands the same way, but without annealing, you could have a soft area and a non-soft area, so you're not going to get uniform control of that going down the chamber.
Yeah, and that's a huge benefit. I think, in my experience with my customers, the vast majority of them want to anneal cases so the brass life lasts longer. And there's a lot of ways to make the brass last longer, not just annealing. If you're not making hot loads, if you're not putting too hot of primers in them, all these different things come to play. So I did it when I first started making these. The first thing I did was buy some Lupo brass, 308s. And I put a medium load in, I forget, it was 4064 or some powder, I forget what it was now. But I kept track of it for 50 reloads.
Wow.
And I mean, measured everything meticulously. And I couldn't see a difference in the brass. So I finally gave up keeping track of it. I've got some Lupo brass that I've reloaded 100 times.
Wow. Now, did you try to do a control where you didn't anneal it and just see how long you could? Yeah. So that's one thing we're going to do, because, and realistically, if we get, so I am going to be doing very close to maximum pressure loads in the 300 blackout.
You'll have to get those results.
I'm going to, because, yeah, I have to. For the sole fact that I don't want to shoot, reload, shoot 100 times, or more.
Yeah.
If we get to the point where it becomes really large, where we may cap it at like 50 or something and say, we got 50 plus. And that, some of the annealing systems I looked at, that have already been sent to me. We have one where it's an aluminum like chuck, and the brass fits in there, and it just exposes the neck.
Right.
And you put it on a drill, and you put it over the torch. It goes, and it goes. And they say as soon as it starts to turn orange, you drop it, and you put a new one in.
Right.
And so, I mean, we're going to check it out. But when you start looking at more precise measurements like this, where it's measuring how long it stays in the torch. Now, do you have a guide for recommendations, or?
Well, we do. It's not a scientific type guide with a graph and a scale and all that.
Right.
When we first started this, that was one of the many questions I got. So what I decided to do was buy Tempolac. And Templac's just a liquid that you paint on, and you let it dry, and it will indicate what temperature you've reached. And so we bought some of that. I don't sell it on my website because it's got a shelf life and it's expensive. But we did all the tests, we made all the videos, so we could show people this works. And then I found quite a few of my customers were interested in doing the same test. And they did. They made videos, and it worked, And so I kind of got away from, okay, we know that, I call it dwell time, when a case falls from the top hopper through the groove onto the bottom wheel in the annealing position, it needs to be under that flame somewhere around 5.5 to 6 seconds. This is the most debated issue in the annealing world. Many will tell you need to keep it in the flame much longer. It needs to reach a much higher temperature, and it needs to stay at that temperature for a longer time. And having a metallurgy background, I realized that, and you can look any of this up on Google, it's real easy to find. Brass anneals, a true anneal, is at 1350 degrees. And that's where they get the glowing red color. That's what temperature it's at. What we find, or what I have found, is that when you heat a piece of metal up that hot at one end, but you don't want the other end to get that hot, you can't anneal it that long, and you can't get it that hot. It gets way too soft, and the heat migrates down the case. Mm-hmm. So then you don't need to quench brass, but if you're going to get it that damn hot, you really need to stop the process. Otherwise, you're going to get it way too hot at the bottom, and you're going to have cases exploding in your chamber. So the most debated part of annealing seems to be what temperature you want to heat your brass up to. I call it flash annealing. It's really nothing more than just heat treating. Real annealing would take hours and incredible temperatures, and however that would ruin the cartridge. So you can only get, you only want the mouth of the case and the shoulder.
Well, what about inductive annealing?
Well, I actually have one here that I'm doing. This is a feeder I made for Garrett Churchill. It's a little Annie. It feeds it, all that. But we've just never gotten to the point where we released it on the market. everybody, a lot of people, not everybody, really appreciate induction because there's no flame.
Right. And it's pretty fast too.
It is. It does it in just a couple of seconds. You can drop a case down in that coil. It doesn't matter if it's touching it or not. The magnetic force centers the case. Create a little micro switch that'll drop it out and drop another one right in. The problem, I think, just my personal opinion, is that these induction annealers, unless you've got a commercial grade one, an amp, are you going to do amps? Amps may be that great. I don't know. I've had a couple of customers that have used amps and told me that you know they're not what they were hoping for in a commercial grade type of annealer. So I don't know. I don't have one. I've never bought one. I thought about it. I've always been real impressed with it.
We have one from Australia coming in.
Do you?
Yeah, which is, they have like a little chuck, you put your brass in, you set it down, you bring it back out, you know, you drop it in, and it's just a process, boom, boom, drop, boom, drop.
Right.
But it's manual.
Well, and they have automatic feeders for them.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make something that I thought would be simple, would last forever.
Yeah.
And be affordable. The only reason I ever made one to begin with was back 10 years ago when I was shooting all the time. A buddy of mine kept telling me, you know, you need to anneal your cases. Out of a 5-shot group, I'd have a flyer 1 inch off. And it would just piss me off.
Yeah.
And he kept arguing with me, and I kept telling him, you know, you're no way. I don't believe it. And so he's like, well, give me your brass. And he took it home and he annealed it. And he was doing it by hand. And he brought it back. He says, here you go, reload these just the way you always do, and we'll go to the range. So I did, and I was just amazed, absolutely amazed that those flyers were gone. And so I thought,
Makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. It makes a difference. And so anyway, I'm looking online. I'm going to buy an annealing machine, and I won't name the one that I really wanted, but it was expensive. And
Well, the one that we're getting is $1,600 on the market.
yeah,
And I'm like, $275, $1,600. Now, one of the reasons why I'm doing this test is if I don't see the difference between a machine like this and this $1,600 giant piece, why would I spend the money on that when I can, you know, use one of these machines and get the same results?
well, and that was kind of my approach to the whole thing of keep it simple, stupid. It was like, okay, everything's way too expensive. You got to buy all these different gadgets, whether they're inserts or what have you. And the only thing I couldn't create, and I really tried, was a one-wheel-fits-all type of system.
Oh, yeah.
There is an annealer out there that has something similar to that, where they're putting inserts into a big wheel. And I actually have one of them here. And I thought, looking at it, that it was too cumbersome. So I created this with just the shims, and you can add it and put a screw on it. And
Well, looking at the electronics, when I looked at the back of there, it's so simply done that, so the more complex you make something, the more issues you're going to have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if you look at cars that were built in the 1950s that still run, and then you look at these newer, you know, high-tech cars,
Yeah.
and then after, like, you know, as soon as you get to, like, you know, 60, 70,000 miles, everything starts to go wrong.
yeah.
There's a difference. Simplicity has its uses.
I think so. And when I sell a machine to a customer, I believe that they'll have it for life. There's nothing in it that they're going to wear out. And if eventually something fails, you know.
You know what's going to fail the first is the power brick.
Believe it or not, we when chose a power brick, of course, another part from China. But when we chose those, we way overdid it. So the machine would draw 1.5 amps at 12 volts, and so I bought 6 amp bricks.
So you're not pushing it to the limit.
And so we find that we get very few failures. The most power supplies that I replace are people that lost them, or misplaced part of the cord or something like that. Typically, I give them a link where they can buy one similar to what I furnish from Amazon for $10, $11, $12, whatever they are.
So I have a trick that I do. So I'm gonna pass on one of my tricks that I do. Being that I'm in the tech field as well, every time I have a power brick, I take a silver Sharpie and I write on that power brick what it goes to. So like with this machine, I would put Annealee on it. So if for some reason I have to move stuff and I have this box filled with all these power supplies, I know exactly where each one goes. And believe me, makes a difference.
Comes in handy.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And you know, everything comes with a power supply nowadays.
It does.
And so, you know, it makes a lot of sense. There's enough room in the back of these that we, you know, figure everybody stores their crap in the back of them, regardless of what it is. And how people lose them, I don't know. It's, you know, it's easy though. And so. And you use this machine, at least the way I reload 1,000 cases at a time, whatever caliber I'm low on. And then it's going to set. You know, it'll set, it'll be dusty, everything by the time I'm ready to use it again. And so I've got to take it and pull it out, wipe it off, all that kind of stuff, and then use it. I assume I reload no different than anybody else. So I do 1,000 at a time simply because when I buy a box of primers, I get 1,000 primers.
Might as well do 1,000 pieces of brass.
Exactly. And so, and then I throw them in an ammo can and throw it in the safe and forget about it until I'm like, oh shoot, I'm out of
I need to make
30s.
this, yeah. Well, earlier we were talking about why, you know, we briefly talked about why you anneal, because when you have expensive brass, especially for, you know, the heavy duty calibers and so forth, but it's also for competition shooters by making sure that brass is properly annealed and that it has the same consistency all around it. You're going to have, Maverick, you just mentioned it, the moment you annealed the brass, your flyers vanished as well.
Well, what you're doing is you're realigning the molecules in the brass wherever you're heating it up. You know, brass is it's 75% copper, 25% zinc, roughly. All manufacturers changed some of that, but for the most part, it's at least that much. So you have a coefficient that you can go by, so you know how hot or how soft. AMP has done some awesome metallurgical tests. They've put it all on their website, shared the data, which was awesome. I really applauded them for doing that because for whatever reason, it seems to be a big secret, and I haven't figured it out why.
Why? Yeah.
And a lot of people make it too complicated too. It's for what we're doing, just basic heat treating, flash annealing an area of a case. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Kudos to those that are OCD enough to absolutely make sure every single case is exactly the same, clear down to the number of grains of powder that they charge in the case. I've never been able to do it that way. I'm just, I'm focused, I get the group that I want, and then I repeat it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of caveats to everything. A lot of people want to clean their brass with washing and stainless steel pins. That's how I like to do it.
Which tumbler do you use? Frankfurt Arsenal?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I just got one. Like this last week, I buy stuff off of Facebook Marketplace a lot, and a guy had a whole bunch of reloading stuff, and he had that, and I got it for like a fraction of the cost. So I also have like a Hornady ultrasonic cleaner. Right? And I clean my brass. So that's another thing I'm going to be, another series of videos I'm going to be doing this year is which does best for brass cleaning? Do you use the wet tumbler with the steel pins? Do you use the corn cob and the shaker, or do you use the ultrasonic, or does a combination of them do your best bet? So that I'm going to be doing that soon. Well, because I have all of them now.
It's what I have found for reloaders and shooters. It's personal preference.
It is.
It's what they like, how they want to use it. Just like the annealing, as soon as I came out with the stainless steel or the aluminum wheels, a lot of people were happy about that. And now I'm getting emails about, well, can you make it with the nylon wheels?
Again, yeah.
and I'm like, well, you can't, because
it's a different design now.
The whole innards in it have changed. So, we just can't do it that way. But this works extremely well. I still prefer the nylon.
Yeah.
That's just personal preference.
When it comes to shooters, you mentioned earlier that the cool thing about, our sport, I mean, like I told you, I was a competition shotgun shooter. And reloading is completely different with shotgun shells compared to like when we're talking about, precision rifle shooting. But when I go to the range, I would say, unlike any other sport, including archery, the people I meet at the range are usually very accommodating and very helpful. I would say 95%, because there's always that 5% of like, why are you here? Why are you using my oxygen? But we have a really high percentage of people who are like, oh, you've never shot this gun? Come here, shoot my gun. The first time I shot a 50 cal Barrett, I mean, those are $9 a piece.
Right.
And he goes, oh, come here and shoot my gun. I'm like, okay.
Let me give you $100 bill. I'll write off 10.
So a funny story. I like to name my rifles. All right. So it's a personal thing that I do. So in my video, A Quest to 1,000 Yards, I had it's a custom made party starter action. This is a really, really nice rifle. And if you look at the video, you can see it. I named that Rob's Zombie Slayer because the colors are like a dead gray with a fluorescent green throughout the whole thing, everything, the scope rings and everything. Well, not the rings, but the Picatinny rail. And I'm like, so all right, I named that Rob Zombie Slayer, and that's in 6.5 PRC. And the farthest I had ever shot was 100 yards ever. And my really good friend who's been on my podcast, Michael Winters, in 2 days, I went from 100 yards to 350, next day 350 to tighten my groups, and then I went out to 1,219 yards and nailed it, my first shot, and then put the second bullet right next to it.
It's impressive, isn't it? Oh. And it's a bug. Once you're
I really considered selling my competition shotgun and everything, 20 grand worth of shotgun. And I'm like, I can get 12 grand for this. And I'm like, no, I should probably keep it,
Yeah.
But it's like I said before, when we were talking before we started filming, it's the science behind it that really intrigues me. Knowing the wind, knowing the elevation, knowing the content of moisture in the air, everything has something to do. When I'm shotgun shooting, I'm not shooting very far. But I'll tell you what really clinched this is I'm shooting at a moving target, consistently.
With shotguns,
And when I'm training for a competition, I'll shoot anywhere from 500 to 1,000 rounds a day, right? And and I'll go to, like, if I'm doing sporting clays, I'll go to a hole and I'll do 100 rounds hitting those 2 targets until I've locked in that muscle memory. In skeet, I'll go to each stand and I'll blow 25 rounds just at that stand, go to the next one, because it's learning. But with shotguns, I'm shooting 12 gauge shotguns predominantly, and I'm shooting up to 1,000 rounds a day.
That had to be hard.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you right now, my right here, tough as nails. Not so much over here. But what really helped me for long range shooting is I don't flinch on recoil. I don't have any recoil issues whatsoever. So I'm pure focused. So a lot of people do hesitation because of the recoil, and they're like, oh, it's going to be a big recoil. Recoil doesn't faze me at all. I know there's going to be recoil, but it doesn't make me hesitate.
And for me, what I ended up doing to avoid any type of recoil fear was simply to put really good, I like Timney triggers.
Timney triggers are nice.
Yes. But I dialed them down to the point where it was a surprise every single time I pulled it. And finally, I would be to the point where I could feel it. But it would take a long time to get there. And by then, the rifle's broken. I really know where I'm shooting.
My competition rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor, man, I swear to God. So when I'm lining up, I cannot have my finger touching the trigger. It is so light. I think a stiff wind would set off. I mean, that trigger's just like super, super light. So once I'm lined up and I know I don't have any cant, then I gently put my finger on the trigger and it goes off. I mean, the moment I touch that trigger, fire. So it's like with others, so I don't like two stages because I have to come over here and then it's the stop. I like one stage, and I've also discovered I like straight triggers compared to curved triggers. It's all depending on what you like, right?
And most of the industry is exactly the same. And then you'll find consumers that will swear up and down that one's better than the other. It's
preference. It's all preference.
It's all preference. There's absolutely no reason to ever debate any of it, because what you like today, you may not even like tomorrow.
That's exactly right. So let's talk about your Gen 4 here a little bit to get back on track. Because
we'll talk about guns and shooting.
I'm ADHD. It was like, oh, butterfly, right? So when someone orders this for $275, right, and that includes shipping, so it's just a flat $275, right?
Flat $275.
What do they get with the product?
So they get the machine, they get all the wheel kits, which enables them to go from a 300 blackout, which you're going to be doing, all the way up to a 338 Lupo.
Wow! So you can do which is a 223 shell.
But it's shorter.
Yeah, it's a shorter.
Which requires a thinner wheel for a shorter case, bottom and top.
Wow.
So we've included every bit of that.
So you get all the wheels. Get the machine. Power supply.
Power supply and a clamp for the bottle.
Okay.
So essentially you've got everything you need with the exception of propane. Which
is, thank God, still cheap.
Right, and we've designed everything to use these camping style bottles. The reason for it, and there's a lot of guys that go out and buy extension.
Oh, and you get the torch head too.
Oh yeah, and you
Yeah.
get the torch head. But a lot of guys want to hook these up to like a 20-pound bottle of propane, and they'll pipe it out to bottles sitting outside, or even have it sitting next to them. But what I found was, and it shocked me when I really kept track of it, one of these bottles will anneal almost 4,000 cases.
Wow.
A 1-pound bottle. So imagine what a 20-pound bottle will do. You know?
Wow, just forever.
Yeah, and also...
Does it come with the attachment for
It
this?
does not.
Okay, do you sell those?
We do.
Okay.
They're cheap.
How
They're
much are those?
$10.
$10, okay.
And it includes shipping.
Oh, jeez.
Everything, all the shipping's included in everything we sell. But
When we do the evaluation, I'm going to test both and kind of give you my preference, because what he's saying about being able to move it and adjust it makes perfect sense. Where the mount here, I mean, I can see why some people would like that, because there's no worries about anything. It's just a hose that runs back. So that would I'll check it out, and then I'll give you my personal opinion, but understand my personal opinion isn't necessarily how you're going to want to do it.
I can promise you that there will be people, and hopefully they'll leave you comments.
Yeah.
Because that kind of feedback's invaluable, whether it's positive or negative. I value all that type of feedback. When I get somebody that complains a lot, I really look at it, trying to figure out, why would this person be unhappy, and it's super important to figure all that out so you can make improvements. And then the guys that actually take the time to write me an email and say thank you, or how much they liked whatever it was they were talking about. I actually print those out and bring them down here for the crew to read.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it gives them a sense of purpose, short of just having an 8-hour-a-day job with a paycheck. It gets them involved. And some of them I've taken with me to gun shows. I haven't done a gun show in several years now, just simply because we don't have the time anymore. They were fun. They were really fun, but...
I used to do gun shows with my dad when I was 10. I used to live in Bozeman, Montana, and we'd always run off to the gun shows, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. You meet some great people there, which is fantastic. And it's like we started, I started knowing people, and man, you can just wheel and deal all day long and just have the best time ever.
Yeah, and you learn. For me, that's what I enjoy about it. Is invariably, it doesn't matter. I will find something I hadn't seen before, or heard of, or something that's new that's being done just a little differently. And for me, that's invaluable. I really enjoy being able to learn and make it better.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that's a lot for $275. I mean, that's extremely reasonable. Now, I've seen some that are similar to this that have a plexiglass here, but I don't see the need for it because you're canted back, so the brass isn't level where it could possibly fall. It's at a slight angle.
Well, we did that. That's a I think it's a 15-degree angle or something like that. The very first one I made, and I didn't think about it, I would have, it's actually setting in parts. I wanted to clean it all up, put it together, put it in like a glass case and bring it down. And so otherwise, if I'd have thought about it, I would have done that already. But not knowing, you're the first person I've ever sat down for an interview with.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really didn't know what to expect, and so I thought, well, shoot, why worry about it? Just wing it and tell the truth and see what happens. Just like we really did with the machine, to be honest. But I think the the volume of sales, where we've shipped all over the world, and different things like that has spoken for itself. Annealeez had quite a following for a long time and no real competition. Now that we have some competition, it's making me, as the owner, really pay more attention. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm interacting more with customers. When we first started selling with retail stores, I went to the stores. I met customers. I met the staff selling them, the management that decided to buy them, only to find out that they had all been using Annealeez machines for years. And I was really flattered.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's other machines out there, and they're good machines. They really are. Where I think we shine is simply that for basically $250, so we charge $275, but we throw the shipping in. I don't think you'll get a more reliable, more consistent machine.
And what's the warranty on these?
There's nothing written, because when I first formed the corporation and all that, the lawyer was like, well, you know, for this many dollars we could do this, this, this. I'm like, the hell with that. I'm an honest person. I do everything straight by the book. I don't even cheat on taxes, nothing. But I tell my customers when they ask, it's essentially a lifetime warranty. You know,
so long as you're in business, you know?
Yeah, I'm still sending parts out or giving advice or whatever it might be for machines I sold in 2014. We'd never get motor failures. Those seem to last forever. But the controllers, not these specific kind of controllers, the other analog controllers, they'll fail. They have a pot style on them, they'll fail. So yeah, I still have in the other shop over there, a stock of them that, you know, when something fails, I send it to them. And I ship it for free and send it to them for free and tell them how to install it if they have questions.
That's incredible.
And then the other thing I do, I don't know who else does it, is if you've got a problem with your machine and you just can't sort it out, send it to me. If you're willing to spend 20 bucks to ship it to me, I'll eat the 20 bucks to send it back to you, and we repair it for free.
That's incredible.
And we do that, you know, frequently. I mean, we don't have, when I say frequently, less than 0.1% of any generation we've made has had problems. But you know, when you sell that many, it turns into being maybe 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
And so I figured that was the least I could do. You trusted me to give me your money and buy my machine. So we had a guy, I didn't know this, he's like, can I bring it over to you? And I'm like, you can. It was a Gen 1 machine. And of course he saw this. It was just getting done at that point. We hadn't even started production, just planning it.
Yeah.
And he was like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, no. He says, I was at your other shop when I bought this. That was 8 years ago. He says, and you showed me around and showed me what you did and how you did it. And he says, I was sold, you know. He says, and yeah, I really appreciate you letting me come over and drop this off. And I always try to let one of the people that assemble for me fix stuff because it helps them. And she struggled with it for a while, and I looked at the guy and I'm like, well, you know, why don't you give me a day and I'll work with her on it. We'll get it all sorted out, and we'll get it back to you. And he said, no problem. And we replaced stuff that even didn't need to be replaced just to make it quieter or whatever, and really work the machine over. And when he got it back, it was virtually brand new. And he's like, I have tinkered with this forever, and I'm pulling my hair out. I was ready to throw it away. And I'm like, well, you can always buy a new one. But he's like, no. He says, I love that thing. He says, and you've made it new again. Thank you. And I didn't want any money. I was just like, no, take it.
See, that you're a rarity, because I see so much people just out for the cash and any way to nickel and dime someone, and it's just, it's.
I can't do business that way.
No, and that's not how I was raised. If like when I make something and I sell it, if someone has a problem with it, I'll replace it or fix it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I sold you a product, and if my product has failures on it, then I should probably stop selling that product.
Yeah, or at least improve it.
Yeah, or improve it, right? So like, if you're dealing with high failure rates, you need to figure out your design. But the fact that you ship the product, you fix anything that comes in, and it's just that's impressive, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's been the motivation behind making them. Was just simply to supply shooters and reloaders like me with something that was affordable and reliable. And when I first marketed them, like I said, I never ever would have guessed that anybody would buy one. And it just took off. So, and it's required a lot of customer service. Every time we have a new generation, it requires a lot of customer service, because we're working the bugs out of production, and okay, wait a minute, this part that we bought, we don't like it. It's not giving us the results we're looking for, the reliability. So we're going to replace it with a different part.
Wow.
And those kinds of unadvertised changes happen constantly.
Makes sense.
That's the only way to stay on top of it and provide the product that we preach about. Where this is a good machine, it's reliable, you'll like it, it's American made. Sure, there's Chinese components in it. I don't think that you could make anything today.
Not easily. And not for a decent cost. It's unfortunately, but it's predominantly made here in America. It's assembled right here.
Yeah, and we make everything we can. And we're real particular about, or I'm real particular about stuff I'll buy. Like these little O-rings that we bought, they're heat treated for hydraulics, so they should be able to overcook them and not have them melt. And they're made in America. I could have bought Chinese ones.
Yeah.
But those are made in America. All the steel is, I buy from a specific mill up in Michigan that will give me this exact steel every time. Believe it or not, it can really differ. So, it's changed a lot. When we first made them, we made them out of high carbon steel, welded everything together, powder coated it, and I thought, man, you can't beat it. This is stainless, and we rivet it together, and it's stronger.
Wow.
But it's the engineering behind it that makes it that way.
So how many shells can you hold in the hopper at a time? Like if you were doing like 308 or 6.5 Creed?
And believe it or not, that was part of the design. So it'll hold about 250 223s. Wow. It'll hold about 180 308s. I've seen people put shelves on the back of them so they could stack more in them. Different things like that. I I throw about 25 or 30 in it and
At a time?
and just feed it.
Yeah.
You know, so it never stops. But you know, there's a lot of guys that like to, you know, pile them way up and then just let them go. I always worry about the consumer that piles them way up and then walks away.
Yeah, not with a flame.
And that happens.
Yeah.
It happens. I've gotten these back, especially these, where you know, they got a case trapped in there, and then I kept feeding cases into it, and you know, the whole thing's on fire. Well, not fire. This stuff won't catch fire. You can aim the torch directly at it; it won't burn.
Yeah.
And of course, the aluminum won't burn either. But they're melted down into unrecognizable, you know, gobs.
Now, does this come with a catch tray?
No.
For brass?
No,
Do you sell them?
I have them. There's a stack of them right over there.
Right here.
Yeah.
So it just sits right there, huh?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And how much do you sell these for?
I think those are $15 on the website. I used to furnish them with all the other machines, the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. This, of course, is 3 and 4. But what happened, and it just made me decide not to do it anymore, is people would complain they're not big enough, or they're not small enough, or they don't hold the cases as they drop the right way, and stuff like that. And when I went to the Gen 3, was during COVID, and I'm having trouble getting all this stuff shipped in, supply chains suck, and trying to get everything in the volumes that we were dealing with was almost impossible. So I really had to look at it and decide, okay, wait a minute, I can raise my price and keep furnishing all this stuff, or I could get rid of the things that people are really critical of and keep my price the same.
And make it an option.
And make it an option.
It's like, if you want to buy it, and $15 for that is not unreasonable.
No, that's just like the little clamps that we make. It's simply a turnbuckle that we order in bulk and tear apart and make it to where it'll fit this. And you know, some people have been critical. Well, it looks like you went to the hardware store. And I'm like, well, literally, we did go to the hardware store.
We did it, so you don't have to. You know?
Exactly. And you know, turnbuckle at the hardware store costs you $10. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Of course, you know, we found a place we could buy them from. Once again, somewhere in America, it's up in New Jersey, they would make them for us in bulk, ship them down here, and then of course we got to take them apart, throw the left-hand part away, keep the right-hand part, sort it all out and get it to where it's something the customer can use.
Right.
And then take pictures of it, show it, make videos of it, show it. This is how you use it. This is how it works.
I really appreciate you allowing me to come over and you know, meet you face to face and check out your assembly shop here. This is great. I'm going to be, when we're done here with this podcast, I'm actually going to be walking through and filming in here. So when I review the product, we'll also talk about the manufacturing process. Nobody else is close enough for me to do that, so he's going to get that special part.
Well, thank you. I'm flattered. I really am.
I really appreciate it. And then what I would like you to do is, if you're not a member of our channel, which is Lupo Outdoors on YouTube, we also are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, which is now X. Please join our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And next week we'll have a whole brand new show. The last 2 weeks we haven't had a show because unfortunately I was in the hospital, but I'm better now. And watch for the episode when we actually do the full review of this product. And overall, when you watch the whole series, I'll give you a rating on every single one of them. And and the bake-off. And we'll talk about the bake-off. And the bake-off really comes down to how easy it is to use and how well of a job it does with the annealing. Does it, how the accuracy improves and the ballistics and so forth, and price. So we are going to judge, which, gives you the best bang for your buck. It's going to be hard to beat $275 with free shipping. That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, it was always the premise, the price point. The one thing I don't do is give discounts. I get a lot of questions about military discounts or law enforcement discounts, and as much as I would love to do that, and I'm a veteran, I can certainly understand. What we did when we nailed down a price point and included shipping was eliminate any wiggle room for discounts. I can't offer a 10% discount or 25% discount or whatever. But what I do, I give away a lot of machines. I sponsor a lot of events, send the machines out, send them usually with t-shirts.
Nice.
And those are on. You were asking me about other stuff. We sell those too. We're not a t-shirt company though.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to push t-shirts, but we had requests for them, so we had some made. Yeah. Mostly we use them as work shirts around here. But it's just been a wonderful journey. Meeting the people in the contests. I've gone to a few of the contests. I made the mistake being a Florida boy going to a winter tough man contest up in Kentucky, and I didn't even own a winter coat. Yeah,
you paid the price.
Oh, I went to Cabela's and got a winter coat. But wow, it was like 17 degrees. Those guys are outdoors sleeping with their rifles.
You learn it the hard way, because I was a California surfer boy, and then we moved to Alaska, and you don't know what cold is until it's like 30 below zero. And, you breathe and your breath falls. Yeah. It's horrible.
You take that first deep breath and you feel all the moisture in your lungs freeze.
It gets your attention.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank you so much for spending the time with us today and going over your product. I can't wait to play with this and start filming the whole process.
I'm going to give you one that's over there in the box awesome. that we would have just shipped to the next guy that ordered one. So you're not getting any preferential treatment. You're just getting whatever we ship. And,
perfect. So it's not customized for the review.
No, it's not. And since we're still in the hammer it down production part of it, if you have an issue, let me know.
Oh yeah,
please.
Absolutely, without question.
Yeah, and you see room for improvement, let me know.
I will, absolutely.
So, I think that anybody watching this, anybody that buys a machine, it will be happy.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, right off the bat, your customer service. Yeah. So that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please join us on YouTube. Watch for the reviews of the annealing processes. There's quite a few machines that we're going to be reviewing. And then we're going to rate the best of the best, which is what machine actually hitting all the tick marks came out the best, price-wise, annealing-wise, capabilities, and customer service is a big part. If honestly, I'd rather pay 20% more for good customer service than
even at McDonald's.
With their prices they owe me.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.